Welcome to your FCS part of the tour. FCS plays an outstanding 3-2 again last week, 57 wins, 31 losses. That's almost 67% winners, guys, over the last 2 years with these FCS plays. I'd like to thank Chris for that. Quick note, we'll get to the tour records just quickly. This is the records, the selections on fire, 18-8-1 the last 5 weeks. That's the regular tour. 172 over 35 weeks. FCS selections, there you go, 57, 31, 65%. Combined tours, 60%. And those quick hitters, if you haven't got them already, 28 and 12, 70%. By the way, the schedule predictor yesterday had two best bets, and both best bets won with Clemson and Oregon. There were 11 overall best bets this week on the schedule predictor, so do make sure you check that out if you haven't checked it out already, if you're a Phil Steele Plus member. Also, a quick note for you before I get to the FCS stuff. If you look on the tour, somebody was questioning the record on the preseason games. So I just want to make sure everybody is on the same page, because this gentleman evidently was not understanding how these columns work. But I said the best bets last week in the Phil preseason column were 9 and 6. He said, no, they weren't. They were 4 and 5 because you had even here and even here. So that's a no play. And I'm like, no, that's not the case. How this works is this. Like here, this even play. That means my preseason line on the Oregon-Iowa game was even. The line was Oregon minus 6.5. I thought the game should be even. That's a 6.5 point difference. So I'm saying take the underdog, and the underdog won with Iowa. This even was Duke against UConn. In the preseason, I said this game should be a pick'em game. Duke was an 8.5 point favorite. That's an 8.5 point difference. And once again, it says even, so take the dog because that's an 8.5 point difference. So those are both wins. The other one he had a question on was the Louisville game. Louisville was a 19 point favorite. I had Louisville a 10 point favorite. Now, what does that say? It says take the dog. The dog is a 9 point play. So even though it doesn't say over here at Cal plus 10, it says Louisville minus 10. Naturally, if they're minus 19, and I'm saying that they should have won by 10, that's saying take Cal. So if you do look down the preseason lines, they were indeed 6-3 last week for the week and are 146 and 90. Just thought I'd clear that up for you guys. But let's get to these FCS games. You guys love these things. And once again, become a Phil Steele Plus member. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Let's talk about Youngstown State, Indiana State. Youngstown State's at home for this one. Now, last week we had a tour winner going with Youngstown State in their 48-38 win over Southern Illinois. Look at that, 648 yards offense. Wow. And we had a winner going against Indiana State, and they got crushed by Illinois State 52-20. Look at all that red. Look at all this green. This is almost like a red-green game. I wonder if Chris is going to call it that. Youngstown State dominated the second half last week and led 48-30 late fourth quarter. SIU got a touchdown with just 35 seconds left. Last week, we noted that Indiana State was off a misleading 24-12 win over South Dakota State and was dealing with several injuries, including their top two quarterbacks. While South Dakota State had a 441, 228-yard edge, 26-9 first down edge, and yet Indiana State had won that game. Well, last week, against Illinois State, the Sycamores were outgained 555 to 272. Now, on the season, they are minus 228 yards per game and minus 245 in the Missouri Valley. They've lost 6 games by well over 20 points. Youngstown State is 6-4. They're in the playoff hunt. Quarterback Bo Brungard is one of the top candidates for the Waller-Payton Award. He's thrown for 2,423 yards, rushed for 1,143, and has 18 touchdowns, both passing and rushing. That's 18 here and 18 here. That's 36 touchdowns. Wow. Youngstown State's offense puts up 459 yards per game, which is 105 yards per game more than their opponents. So once again, you know these columns. We have them in the NFL. We have them in the regular college. This takes into account what the opponent averages in games other than playing Youngstown State. When they put up 276 yards here, that means that Southern Illinois generally only gave up 372 yards per game, and they outdid that by 276, getting to 648. They are plus 105 on the season. You got to love that. And look at this. These guys are minus 109, but I'm sure Chris will take us there. ISU, Indiana State allows 505 yards per game, 109 more than their foes allow, which is number 125 in the FCS. So if these guys average 459 and they get 109 more, that's 568 yards. If these guys allow 505 and they get 105 more, that's 610 yards. Just to let you know, Youngstown State head coach Doug Phillips could let his quarterback pad some stats here, as they only have Northern Iowa on deck. Indiana State has our number 122 ranked pass D. Once again, come over here, FCS information. We do have pass efficiency defense there. Come all the way down here, and we're going to find Indiana State at number 122, allowing 68% with a 23-6 ratio. The AGG says Youngstown State by 33. That's 87 here, and they're only playing at a 56 level. So you add 2 points for the home edge here. You get Youngstown State by 33. The last 4 weeks, 96 versus 62. Add in the 2 points, you get a 34-point difference. And they're only laying 20.5. And Chris did call it the red-green game of the week. Youngstown State's great run game. Look at this. They want to run the ball against Indiana State's poor run defense. Although there's a lot of green over here. There's a lot of red over here. I think you could take a look at their run offense against their run defense. Look at it over here, allowing what they allow. And so you've got the red-green game of the week. Everything points to the Penguins to have a big senior day. And just real quick, if you want to get Phil Steele Plus and get access to all this information, remember, Phil Steele Plus is free when you subscribe to Inside the Press Box. Don't pay the $99 for Phil Steele Plus right now. Just get my College Inside the Press Box newsletter for the rest of the regular season. It's $79. I'll give you 25% off. It's $59.25. That includes Phil Steele Plus. You get a great newsletter for 4 weeks, and you get Phil Steele Plus, a $99 value free. Keep that in mind. All right, let's get to your next game, and it is Maine against Rhode Island. Maine is at home for this one. And we're going to put Maine on the right. And we are going to put Rhode Island. What's the Maine? Black Bears. They used to have a great defense, the Black Bears, years ago. I remember their defense used to just be dominant. Take a look. 352. That's not dominant. 347. Might have been a few years back that the Black Bear defense, like here, 317. They always used to have a great defense. But things have changed recently for Maine, just to let you know. You see some red. Look at all that red in here for last year. That's not a traditional Black Bear defense. But the Maine Black Bears are right now the hottest team in the CAA. After an 0-4 start, they have won 6 straight. Oh, look at that. They are playing a lot better this year. Maybe they're getting back to being that Black Bear defense. Holding opponents to 41 yards per game below their average. That is number 14 in the country. I like that. But let's get back to what Chris wrote, okay? I like to just, when I get in here and start looking at these stats, there's all kinds of stuff you can discover. I love looking around on Phil Steele Plus. But anyway, they're the hottest team in CSA. They've won 6 straight games, and a win here would put them in berth for a playoff spot. Now they're taking on Rhode Island. Let's get Rhode Island over here on the left. Rhode Island. There we go. 2 of Maine's losses were to FCS teams, FBS teams, Liberty and Georgia Southern. So they've only lost 2 games to FCS teams this year. The once proud Black Bear defense, he does bring that up. They're allowing just 301 yards per game during their last 5 games. And right here, you can see the last 4 games, they're giving up 263 yards per game. During the last 5 games, they've allowed 13.8 and 261 yards per game. They're at home this week, taking on Rhode Island, who's 6-0 in CAA play, and plus 107 yards per game in CAA. But Maine is plus 131, so even better. I like that. The computer only has Rhode Island by 3. The AGG has Rhode Island by 2. Last 4 weeks has Rhode Island by 1. If you add the 2 here, that's 81.6. That's 82.5. Maine is a 6.5-point favorite. And Chris says the Black Bears defense will keep this one close. So we're taking the points, plus 6.5 against Rhode Island. We're at home for this one. I like that. We're on fire. The Black Bear defense coming back. I like all that stuff. All right, let's get to our third play here. And it is Northern Iowa against North Dakota State. And we are going to North Dakota State's at home. Now, the thing I love about the AGG, and I've told you this in other weeks, is the AGG has no starting grade. So as an example, in this case, if Northern Iowa put up the exact same stats against the exact same opponents, or if any FCS team put up the exact same stats against the exact same opponents, their AGG would be 98.5, number one in the country. There's no starting point. So the fact that North Dakota State, who everybody thought would be number one at the start of the year, is playing to that number one level all year long, I love that. And that's the beautiful thing about the AGG. Once again, it doesn't care who you are. It only cares who your opponent is and what you do, rushing, passing, points, and defense, rushing, passing, points. Takes all that into account. So sometimes you can lose a game and it gives you a better grade than when you win a game if the yards were, let's say, plus 200 yards in your loss against a strong team and minus or even plus 200 yards in a win over a really weak team. That would give the factor towards the loss game, actually. And that's what the AGG pluses are all about. But this game is known as the Harvest Bowl. North Dakota State's 10-0, coming off a stretch of tough games where they played three strength-ranked teams: South Dakota State, Youngstown State, and North Dakota. Last week, North Dakota State had a season-low 15 points and 268 yards. Their defense, number one in the FCS. They're holding opponents to 136 yards per game, below their average. And they allow just 243 yards per game. Northern Iowa averages just 16 points per game. This could be a shutout. And 308 yards per game. But their defense has been solid. Their defense is holding foes to 24 yards per game below their average and 366 yards per game. So that's pretty good there. Or actually 24 points per game, and 2 yards per game below their average. In fact, all 10 of Northern Iowa's games have gone under the Vegas total. And let's go take a look at that. We go here. Nobody has FCS logs, right? Nobody. Well, we do. We have FCS logs. You just come over here and you click on FCS ATS logs. Go to FCS right here. You get the logs on every single game. And we could take a look at Northern Iowa. And yes, we've got totals on every single game. So let's go to Northern Iowa. 53.5, that's under. 47.5 under. 54.5 under. 48.5 under. 53.5 under. 47.5 under. 45 under. We don't have the logs updated the last 2 weeks. Now, I didn't mention Todd on our update yesterday. It was one of the rare times I didn't mention Todd the entire FBS tour, and I hope you take that. The FBS tour is absolutely on fire. But Todd's going to get this logs updated so we have these scores and lines. But anyway, how about 10-0 to the under? Last week, Northern Iowa put up 31 points and 440 yards. And by the way, I say nobody has logs. Look at this. Here's the last you can get here. Get these type of logs. Spread records. How do they do as a home favorite? They're 30-25. How do they do as a conference home favorite? They're 14-14 versus top 10 teams. It's all right there. And you also get the last 6 years logs right here. You want to go game by game? Nobody has these. I've got them back to 2017 for crying out loud right here on philsteele.com. Phil Steele Plus, I should say. Last week, you and I put up 31 points and 440 yards, but that was against lowly Murray State. North Dakota State has no need to run up the score. They pretty much have locked up the number one seed. My computer's projection is 37-0, and we will ride that streak and take the under. So this is a streak game. We're taking the under here, calling it North Dakota State 35 and Northern Iowa 3. It is under 48.5. Under 48.5 in North Dakota State, Northern Iowa. And your final play here, and let me just look at the menu, see if there's anything else I could show you over here. I don't know if Chris is going to get to it. Oops, wrong one. Phil Steele Plus menu. Sorry about that. FCS information. You want strength of schedule? There you go. Portland State's played the nation's toughest schedule so far. And down here are your ones at the bottom. Presbyterian at the very bottom. And if you want FCS standings, are they updated? Look at that. They are updated. You want to keep track of that? FCS average game grades, North Dakota State number 1, Montana State 2, Tarleton State all the way down to the very bottom. And then we even do last 4 weeks. Look at this. Montana State is number 1 over the last 4 weeks. That is interesting. I wonder who Montana State's playing this week. And once again, if you guys want me to pick a game just randomly out of any FCS game, without any knowledge on the FCS like Chris has, I don't follow him on a weekly basis. I'll just call up Phil Steele Plus, and we'll pick the game like we did when North Dakota State played South Dakota State. All right, well, this game here, which was a winner, by the way, we got Bryant over here on the right, and we got New Hampshire here on the left. And let's put New Hampshire. And if you don't have Phil Steele Plus, come on, look at all this information. And it's even got, I didn't have an NFL play again this week, but NFL information, you want NFL logs, we got them. Average game grade, Kansas City right now is number 1, all the way down to Cincinnati at the very bottom. That's your average game grade. Here's your last 4 weeks. Kansas City's playing number 1. And then, of course, the team pages have all of this. I'll put the lowly Browns up here. See a lot of red in there against your opponent average. Everything right there on the NFL pages as well. NFL, and of course the FBS, just take the FBS tour. Get yourself some free winners. All right, New Hampshire's climbed back into the playoff picture. That's this team over here. They were 3-4, as you could see their start right here. But they've won 3 straight. They are plus 10 points per game versus CUSA, or CAA, I should say. Plus 10 yards per game against CAA right here. And last week they handled Monmouth, their first FCS loss of the season. Let's take a look at Monmouth real quick, because I'm curious. I want to make sure Monmouth is that good of a team. Yep, Monmouth is doing well. Their only loss had been to Charlotte, so first FCS loss of the season was right there. And Monmouth's that team that we were riding the overs before. Remember that? They were putting up a lot of points. They held Monmouth to 13 points? Wow. I wonder if Chris is going to mention that. He just might. I got a feeling he's going to. I don't read these before I put the tour up. I just do the tour. All right, he didn't. He didn't mention that. I wonder what they held him to below their average. Look at that, 212 yards per game below their average. Now, this rank here tells you that of all of Monmouth's opponents, that was a season low of yards for him. So number three, they've had a lot of good performances this season on the defensive side of the ball. I like that. Their defense holding opponents 24 yards per game below their average. Bryant is just 3-7. They did start 2-1. Good start to the season. And they beat UMass, but they've lost 7 straight, including 21 to Rhode Island, 28 to that same Monmouth team. Last week they beat Albany. Now Albany's 1-9, and they beat them 27-24. New Hampshire could use some style points to make the playoffs. They played the tougher schedule. Did I show you where to go for tougher schedule? I don't think so. Let me go back here, show you tougher schedule. I don't think we looked at that one real quick. Or did we? Toughest schedule. Strength of schedule. Oh, yeah, we did look at that. So, anyway, they've got the tougher schedule, 50 against 72. Here's Bryant, and here's New Hampshire. So, they played the tougher schedule this year. Last 4 weeks, AGG has New Hampshire by 26. 82, they're playing at a 58 level. Look at this level right here. A lot of red recently. This is the last 4 weeks AGG game of the week. Wow, New Hampshire's only minus 13.5, guys. And AGG says they're going to win by 26. Let's go with New Hampshire, minus 13.5 over Bryant as your play. So there's your 4 plays for this week. We've got to mention Todd. We mentioned Chris. And make sure you're on Phil Steele Plus. You get all this information. Look at this. FCS, I showed you with the Maine Black Bears. You also get individual player stats. You want to see how the players are doing. We have this updated each week. And look at this. They changed their quarterback here. Part of the reason they've been struggling, maybe. They've gone to Jason Kettner at quarterback the last 5 weeks. He's hitting 52% with a 4.3 ratio. And this is what the offense has done the last 5 weeks. Now, I'm not sure if Meyer was benched or injured, but you can look at all this stuff up on Phil Steele Plus. So make sure you get your Phil Steele Plus membership today. And once again, 25% off inside the press box, $50, and you're getting the $99 Phil Steele Plus for free. Want to thank you for taking the Phil Steele Plus tour with me today, and have yourself a great Saturday. Let's go. Let's have another big winning FCS day.